How
Hello.
I'm here with this incredible human who is sitting in this like solar based, I don't even know where. I'm totally in awe of all her plants. And I'm really excited to introduce you guys today to Allison Cam, and she is based out of Toronto. And we are going to have an amazing conversation today that I hope is really going to move you guys in the direction of understanding yourselves a little bit more through your connection to your body and your breath. So before we get into coffee and all the fun things, please let me share this extension to Allison, and you can introduce yourself a little bit to the ladies in our community this morning.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me, Steph. It's a pleasure. And this is where I teach yoga, and this is where I teach. So I figured this is a nice grounding place for me to sit on the ground and talk and just have fun and hopefully share insight on anything that maybe we could, help everyone together. I am professionally I'm a hairstylist, and I also just recently started teaching yoga and breath work and all that just because it was a really great way for me to heal, and I just loved it so much I wanted to share it with as many people as I can. So here I am, and I just can't wait to begin our chat.
So fun. And you guys have to know that I actually met Allison through Instagram, as often, coffee chats take place, but also so much of our connections nowadays, we meet each other through, and I would say that's like one of the best things about Instagram is that we get to meet each other. It's, maybe even we could arguably say the only good thing is the people you meet through the platform.
Yes.
But I met Allison through Janelle, who's a member in our community. Hi, Janelle, darling.
Hi, Janelle.
Yeah, and Janelle only knows light-filled babes, so to be able to be graced with your presence today and connect with you for the first time like this is really fun. I have to say, I didn't know that you were trained as a hairstylist, and I just cut off all my hair. How do I feel?
I love it. It's cute. I love it.
When I was pregnant, so Allison's expecting, and I'm sure we'll touch on that a little bit, my hair changed so much. And then I'm going to be 40 next year. And I was just like, I almost need to shave it off. Like it needs a new beginning, and I'm Scorpio energy, and Scorpio energy is very about the transformation. And it's like, everyone knows that when you do something different to your hair, it's so symbolic of so much that you're going through and all of that. I don't know if you're into dreams, Allison, but okay, so I dreamt about bats right before I did this.
Oh, wow.
And bats are like really important to me because there was a bat on my doorstep, like in the city of Montreal before I moved to the middle of nowhere. And it stayed with me in 2017 for 7 days on my doorstep in broad daylight, didn't go anywhere. I thought it was dead. I was like, why is there a bat like on my door? like next to the door, just hanging out there. And and I was scared, obviously, because I wasn't anywhere near my spiritual journey. And then I was like, at the end, I think it was like day 5, I started talking to it. And I was like, talking to my husband too. I was like, is it dead? Do we have to do something about it? Like, I've never seen bats stay out in broad daylight like this. And so on day 7, it left, which was interesting because 7 is a big number for me too. And everything changed. And then I looked up the symbolism of bats. And ever since they come to me, I'm like, they are really magic. And so when I saw the dream and then started thinking about changing my hair, it just feels so symbolic. And so I think that's really like an interesting connection that you have to the hair industry as well in relation to everything that I've been going through lately.
Yes. Hair is a big thing. It's like people like to play it off like it's not big, but it represents a lot, a lot.
So much. So you started, I guess, professionally, that was the career that you chose before you decided to switch gears. Is that it?
I do both. So I am like, hair is about 85%, and then yoga is the rest. And I do yoga and breath work because it's just like a passion. It's like a passion for me. So both are, but I find yoga is just another avenue that I love.
And probably really helpful with the grounding, because when we're working with hair, a lot of Gemini energy works with hair and hands. And so we're doing that. We're kind of multitasking in a lot of ways, and it can be really like having to have these conversations and entertain people who are in our chairs, and that can be so inspiring for social folks, but it can also be quite draining sometimes too. Right? So I think it's a beautiful thing that you were able to step into something that's really meaningful for you and helps you show up probably more fulfilling for yourself, as well as in your line of work as well. It's really great. So how can you tell us a little bit about your journey into yoga, and can you speak to us? We'll touch on it more and more, but I'm really curious around the breath work, because this is something that folks I think talk about a lot, you know, and breath work just being something that we should be focusing on. You know, there's even prompts on our phones and like our Apple Watches nowadays to just kind of stop and breathe. It's really important, but it's something that I think we overlook a lot in our day-to-day. Yoga, with breath work, all how it kind of supported you to understand yourself a little bit more, how it's sort of changed your life, what your attachment is to it. I would love to know that.
Yeah, I'd love to share that. So it kind of, yoga and breathwork kind of came hand in hand for me. When I started my yoga journey, before I used to go and be like, oh, this is a great workout, and, you know, I want to be really fit and all that stuff. And then I stopped for a few years, and then I had remembered some really deep trauma when I was a child, and it was sexual trauma. So for some reason, one year I was like, okay, I need to like do something to move my body, but I don't want to be aggressive. So I went into hot yoga again, and I started going to Moto. And when they teach you how to breathe in class, it was really meditative for me, and it really helped me connect to my body. It helped me slow down. And so everything is like a moving meditation in yoga. So it was breathing, moving your body, and really finding calm, even though you're in these positions that really challenge you mentally, and you're like, I can't do this. And it really represented how I felt in my life. Like I'd be in a balancing posture and be like, God damn it, like I can't do this. Like this is so hard. But you know, it was a reminder to like breathe and just do what you can in that moment and stop and all that. So it was really healing for me to connect back to my body, connect back to my breath, reintroduce myself to myself, and you know, learn to like appreciate what my body could do rather than like kind of reject it and be disgusted by it and have all those really negative like feelings towards it. So that's how it began. And then the breath work is what I kind of got more interested on its own, because I started to learn about Wim Hof breathing, which is a really powerful breath work. Yeah. And it's almost like you're hyperventilating, and to the point where you get like super high. Like it's the most natural high that you could feel. It's euphoric. You feel light. You feel embodied, but also clear. And it is the best feeling. If you feel stressed ever, or if you feel tense, or something is just kind of like bothering you, I always come back to that, and it really helps calm my nervous system. It calms just your entire being. So that is that's like basically how I got into it, and it's really helped me kind of heal a lot of physical trauma and emotional trauma and whatnot.
You talked about, is Wim Hof, that's what you said, eh? What's
yes.
I feel like I saw him in the Goop documentary. Where is
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So he does the cold water swims.
Exactly. And he teaches you how to breathe through those moments that are like really challenging physically, so that you can breathe through it. And the way that he breathes is just like deep inhales, deep exhales, but continuously. So you're almost just using that to support you to get out of that, okay, this is really cold. And it takes you to almost like, I can do this. I'm just going to breathe through it. And I do that with cold showers too. So I take a lot of cold showers sometimes. And when you're in that cold state, when you breathe that way, it really helps you kind of surpass and go beyond.
So that's amazing that you mentioned him, and just maybe that's also the subconscious where I was so curious about breath work because I experienced trauma growing up, just from a really unstable like childhood. Um, and abandonment and all these things. So I have anxiety and like panic attacks. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I think about being really like in a state of just like the winter or the fall is really favorable because those panic attacks and that anxiety has more space to kind of come down, if you will, because of the
Yes.
air, you know?
Yes.
So I've always been curious since watching that. I watched it maybe like a year ago, since watching that series and seeing that. And there was a girl specifically who's featured in it where she suffered with anxiety too. And she started doing the swims and her anxiety, she experienced it as greatly improving. And so the cold showers, interestingly, unless it's winter, I can't actually get my shower water to get that cold. I don't know if it's something to do with like our pipes here, but like
Maybe.
it'll just go to 20 degrees. It won't go, pretty much I know that from like the tap, the thermometer or whatever. It won't actually, it just gets like, I would say very cool, but not like ice cold, you know?
Right, right, right.
It's the ice cold that really is transformative, as you're saying. And I think that's so interesting. And also when you were talking, I just can't help but think like, how beautiful is this for you to be expecting and just be able to use breath work in such an experienced way to support
Exactly.
labor and delivery.
I'm so
I mean,
excited about that.
that's going to be incredible. So before you go into that experience, as you know, speaking to you on the other side of it would be super interesting as well. But how has that helped you feel confident or supported through the preparations of going into delivery? Because I'm sure, you know, we're all sort of spiritual people, or depending on our journey, or curious, you know, spiritually, at the very least in this community. And when we go out into the real world, the exchanges that we're having for the most part, as I'm sure you have many in your, at least in your business of hair, is like, oh, you know, labor is terrifying, pregnant. Like there's just so many fears around the unknown in society, right?
Right, right.
Being at once challenged by those fears and being met with those fears as you're in this moment of like surrender when we you do, right?
Yeah.
Really a whole, it's kind of navigating a whole thing in its own right. And you know, and that confidence and that embodiment and that self-assuredness around something that no one can really tell you how it's going to go. And people love to project their own worries and fears.
Mm-hmm.
That many of us here, having been pregnant or not pregnant, just in a transition of our lives, would be able to relate to the season of life that you're in and how you're approaching it, given your life experience, but also your relationship to breath work. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I would love to. So because to be honest with you, I am scared. Like I would be lying if I was like gliding into this like nothing else. I got all the tools in my belt and everything. Like I am not like that at all. I am, you know, like you, I do struggle with anxiety, and you know, I can struggle with panic attacks because of just the things I've been through. But it's also it's a daily practice for me to mentally speak to myself and like talk to myself and coach myself, because I wasn't born with, you know, the securities of life, right? Like I wasn't packed with all those things as a child. So um where I am now, like I am doing things like hypnobirthing, like I'm learning about breathing, breath work for hypnobirthing, and that there's a lot to do with that. And also in putting into myself like really positive birthing, natural birthing experiences, because that is my goal. And I think with doing that, it's helped me calm down a bit. It's helped me understand that like my body is meant to do this, and women's bodies have been doing this for, you know, centuries, and every single person on earth comes from a woman. And I always have to just give myself these mantras whenever I feel panicked, because it is alarming. You know, you hear a lot of negative stories, and you know, in order to kind of like just not let them really enter your full mind and let them take over, you have to find a way to, you know, ground yourself and be like, okay, Allison, like this is normal. Like your body, like every day I'm like, your body is meant to do this. Like you can do this. And no matter what happens, you know, I want it to be a really great space for my baby to come into, a loving space, not a chaotic space or people yelling and screaming. Like I want them to come into a space that feels loving, and that's that. Like that's the goal for me. And if I have to read 500 books about hypnobirthing, or start to visualize, which is another thing I'm doing. Like in my meditations, I visualize my my uterus opening like a flower, and I visualize the air and the breath kind of coming underneath and out of me so that it can help support him or her out. And yeah, there's so many little things that I've been doing like in the past few months, like in the past month, because I'm coming close to my due date. So I think I'm doing the best I can. I am scared, and I am like, fearful of the pain and all that, but again, I can do it, and my body is meant to do it.
Absolutely. You have the best attitude. So I was saying to Allison before we started recording, it's when I was expecting, which I was telling Allison, and I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but I'm sure some of you can. Quinn just turned 2. You guys all know that. I literally feel like I just had him yesterday. I don't feel like I'm pregnant. I don't know what it is. I was talking to Nick like 2 weeks ago, my husband, and I'm like, when it was Quinn's birthday, I'm like, can you believe he's 2? Like, doesn't it just feel like he's a newborn? Nick's like, no, so much time has gone by. So much has happened. And I'm like, that is not my experience of it at all. Like, yes, a lot has happened, but somehow I'm still like in that state of survival where I'm just like, still in it. This is still happening. We're still learning. And women, I think especially strong, independent women, we put a lot of like pressure on ourselves. So we end up taking on a lot. And it's part of that survival thing too, So I think my experience for sure as a woman, as a mom, and then also with my stories, my personal stories, I've probably taken on more as a mother than maybe someone else. And then definitely than Nick in the dynamic, emotionally too, So it's really interesting to hear you speak to that. And I have to say, I meditated. So the story with my birth is that I thought I was going to have a natural birth, and I was open to epidural, I should say, and I was having it delivered in the hospital, and worked with doulas, and it was beautiful, going to be a beautiful thing. It was beautiful. It was perfect. Terrified of surgery, had a horrible experience in 2006. And I find out at 32 weeks that Quinn is breech, and that the chances of him turning around are very slim. And so I really had to surrender the night before the scheduled C-section, being that for me was a greater fear than going into natural childbirth. And the meditation and the visualizing of how the birth would go was so important and so relevant in terms of when I showed up for the moment, which was really interesting, because when you go in for a scheduled C-section, you're like, see you on the other side, I'll be with a baby in 20 minutes. It's so, so like elevated emotional state. There's no panic. There's no like, it's vulnerable in a different way, and there was, the whole experience was like, they give you so many drugs and you're like, I'm going to be sick. And then Nick and I are all super aware. It's like, can you hold the thing? So she's sick. And you're like, I wish I was just hysterically like in pain right now. And there was just so much more chaos than being so calm and the whole thing. But, I remember through the whole thing, I felt so ready, and I could not have been more prepared than I felt I was in that moment to welcome Quinn in peace, and just with grace and with so much love. And so much of what you're saying resonates because of the experience that, that I had in childhood too, that felt very, a lot of chaos and a lot of unpredictability, and that creates a lot of instability and fear, and it even panic and anxiety for sure. And we'll look at that in a second in your chart. But I want to say, like, as an extension of everything you're doing, it's just so, and preparing for, it seems to me that there is something that can be translated to that as we move into any big moment in our life. I think like preparing for birth, and for labor and delivery as a result of birth is really, it's a very special moment. It's an epic moment in one's life for sure. Sometimes it's more than once in someone's life as well, and that makes it super special. But I think there is something to be said and translated and taken away from it, that we don't need to necessarily do all of these amazing things only when we are preparing to become mothers or deliver. I think there's something that we can do for all of these other moments in life that are larger than life in different ways, and it's right. I feel like, Allison, there's so much to be said of what you're experiencing right now and what I lived firsthand in the process of surrender.
Mhm.
Where we cannot control the outcome. And I agree, and I admire so much your vulnerability around just saying, like, I would be crazy if I was, lying to tell you that I wasn't scared, because we don't know. We don't know. And it's the human condition. When you don't know, you're not going to say, like, I'm fearless. It's impossible, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's absolutely impossible. And you are a Virgo rising, and I've yet to meet a Virgo rising that does not feel vulnerable in situations in the physical world, because Virgos like to have precision, and they like to know, if they put one foot in front of the other, this scenario will be the outcome.
Yes.
So I have to commend you seeing that in your chart, that's actually, and you have Mercury in Virgo too, and you have Venus in Virgo, and they're both in your first house. And that is an extra emphasis on your Virgo nature as a Virgo rising. So you've already come so far in your relationship with your capacity to hold your own and be vulnerable and not have to control everything. And I think that this is a really big testament as you're preparing for it and as you're going into it, and as it's going to be absolutely beautiful, and I'm more than confident. But in your work, I feel like maybe you'll work more with mothers as you become a mom and that sort of thing. But right now, I'm sure you've worked with many people in different walks of life. And can you speak a little bit to how what you've done has, maybe with big career choices or relationship shifts? Can you speak a little bit to the tools that you've been able to give to them through meditation and grounding and yoga that has really transformed their life and helped them feel more at ease and prepared for these, special circumstances where the discourse outside of us is always around fear.
Mhm.
And it's nobody's fault. It's the human experience, but it's our responsibility to help ourselves, instead of just feeling really like in fear and uncomfortable and taking on people's stuff all the time, to support ourselves, to do something that feels loving and feels encouraging and makes us feel capable and empowered through it. So I wonder if you can touch on how your work has supported, or if you have tools for those of us who maybe are moving through challenging times.
Yeah.
For
Yeah. So for me, like when I am working, whether it's hair or yoga, I really do my like so when I first started doing hair, I'll just start briefly here. I didn't realize that I was susceptible to taking on people's, baggage and filtering it for them and doing this kind of, like unknown healing kind of thing. And you just do it because
I want to interrupt you there, only because it's the perfect moment for me to tell you that you have the moon squaring with Jupiter and Neptune in your chart. And so that really is what makes you extremely empathic. That is what makes you so sensitive in your chart. It's it's in your fifth house, where the bulk of that square energy, Neptune and Jupiter, are taking place. And so your creative work is to embody that sensitivity and heal and help others feel expansive and feel good in their kind of with their otherworldly gifts. But with the moon and with that energy, it's a difficult thing to kind of reconcile in the physical. And it also shows some of the trauma, because your moon is in Aries in your 8th house. And the 8th house is our pain and our baggage and other people's stuff that we take on. And in that relationship between your needs feeling like they were at the mercy of someone else who couldn't really handle them or their own, your sensitivity became larger than life. And it was really, really challenging for you to navigate that without it feeling overwhelming. And like often, like it wasn't even your own. So I just want to say, what I see in yoga, in your yoga practice, and with the person you are becoming, and as you continue to evolve, especially as people like us become mothers, self-aware, more self-aware, wanting to continually learn about ourselves and be open, your gifts will continue to flourish in your struggles will feel more like a blessing than a burden. I just want to add that I see.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, because I as a young 20-year-old, I didn't understand. Like, I never understood. I was like, why am I always like so emotional? Why do I feel guilty and weird all the time? What's happening here? I didn't have a clue at all, right? So when you're saying this, I'm like, okay, like ding, okay, this makes sense. But I never it always feels a bit off to think that way about yourself, or girl, it's a weird thing.
Because we're not encouraged in day-to-day life. People don't, there's only a marginal support system for navigating life the way that we do. For the most part, people are scared of what we believe in, what we come to believe in, and what we've kind of been faced with having to believe in, because there really is no other recourse without just being permanently uncomfortable and uneasy. And it becomes really, it's just not a way to live, really. And the moon in the eighth, notwithstanding all of its relationships in your chart, is so laden with guilt. So guilt will be something that you will work really a lot on in your life, and boundaries, and also understanding like, okay, this isn't mine, because boundaries with Neptune and Jupiter together, it's like there's no limits. And with with Neptune, it's more like I take on your stuff and I believe it to be my own, versus it being just this concrete sort of scenario where it's like, oh, that actually isn't my own. So it's a healer's journey, but it is so challenging.
Yeah, I'm like, thank you for confirming, but I'm also like, great, okay. Okay, I got
Allison,
backpack on.
Yeah, backpack on. You're gonna have a physical backpack. You're gonna be like, this is my child. I'm a walking boundary now. All of a sudden, let's do this.
You're so right. It's even just having them in my womb has made me stronger.
Yeah.
Like okay, we need to have dinner. We need to have a dinner with appetizers and with a main course and then a dessert and then maybe afterwards a coffee and then a tea. And then there's just so many things. But yes.
I know, hon. I totally relate so much to your journey, as I know so many women here do. Nothing teaches you boundaries and is more of a true blessing in all sense of the word than becoming a mother, because we need that child's presence to step into our best selves, and their soul needs us to be in this role of becoming. We'll touch more on the motherhood thing in a few minutes, because I loved what you touched on before, around how you're preparing emotionally, and I think that's something I relate to a lot, and I just don't think we could ever speak to it enough. But I'm so sorry to have interrupted you. So I was saying,
no, it's great.
Give us some tools, essentially around, stepping into a big moment of vulnerability, and what has you seen through your experience, as well as through maybe client feedback, has really been supportive to navigating a big change.
So one thing that I always try to do, so for instance, I do a lot of weddings. I'm in contact with a lot of brides, and people often say, like, how are you doing this? It's so stressful. They're under emotional stress and this stress. And I'm like, it's almost like I thrive on that. Like I thrive on someone needing support, and I want to be that I want to hold a space for them so that they can just do what they're doing and be who they are. So I started offering meditation services along with the wedding service, so the hair service. So I would come in. I've done this a few times. I've done a lot of breath work with my brides, and they don't even realize that I'm doing it with them. So which is really amazing. So this past Saturday I had a wedding, and I'll speak to this because it just happened. And she was struggling a lot with just feeling anxious, and she had been overtired, didn't sleep for the whole week, and she just had these panic attacks that would come in waves. And so I would be doing her hair, and I'd say, okay, we're going to do 4 count breathing together. I'm like, you're going to take an inhale for 4, counter through these breath cycles together. And it just got her calmer. It just got her into her body, helped her kind of go back in and be present, because oftentimes people don't understand that they're floating around in the air and they're not grounded at all, because they got caught up with what's happening here, what's happening there, or the pressure that they're putting on themselves. So I often offer breath work when I'm doing that in wedding situations or meditation.
It's genius. It's genius. Who doesn't need this? I mean, we need to feel a sense of calm and security.
Yeah, so it's been really helpful, actually, having been able to kind of learn these tools in my life and then share them with people that actually I'm around all day, because every time I put myself in a position where I'm going to be touching someone's hair, and I always say someone's hair is like the place where your intuition is. It's like the closest place to, up to the ethers. And like this is a very sensitive, sacred area. And I always feel, it's almost an honor to do that for somebody, because it's very personal, and it's an open space, and I try my best to kind of hold that space for them. And I get all these amazing emails that they or feedback, and they're like, I felt so calm with you around, and I feel, like that you just let me be who I am, and I felt just at ease for the day. My anxiety was less, and that's all I care about. Like I don't care what trendy hairstyle you're gonna have. I don't care like if you're gonna have like the coolest wedding on earth. It's like I want you just to feel so good and so confident in your choice and your union that you're doing today. And that's the most important thing. Like be in that moment and soak it in.
That's the thing that's going to take us, I'm 4 years married now, and that's something that's going to take us across all the journeys that we're going to do together. My person, as I'm sure yours is too, was very much concerned more with the groundedness of a wedding versus all the frivolity. And I worked in a very superficial industry in high fashion before. I was a personal shopper in Montreal. It was like a whole thing. And so I really wanted to disconnect from everything you're speaking to right now. And so, but I'm very aware and sensitive to how helpful what your work is, and your person being so attuned and so capable of bringing, like, I'm sure everybody watching this even can sense how calm you are and how loving you are, and just how soothing that can be in a moment of stress. It's really, and it's interesting. I'm saying that and I'm thinking of your Venus in Virgo, which Venus in Virgo is interesting because it gets a bad reputation in some ways because it doesn't love to be in Virgo. But here we have Virgo that is an energy that needs to navigate from the point of view of what makes sense, what is logic, what is reasonable. And Venus doesn't care about any of that. Venus is like, let's have fun, let's do the whole thing. Like, may it be like appetizing and aesthetically pleasing and just feel good. Venus in Virgo is all your plants in the window right now. It's connection to nature that feels beautiful and abundant, but Venus, practically speaking, is like, how much money do I have? How many things do I own? How the top can this be, right? And it's, how can I go big or go home? And it gets that bad reputation because it's almost like, well, now Venus Virgo wants to kind of streamline it and make it feel like it needs to follow certain guidelines and like it has a plan. And Venus is like, what do you mean? And so being your relationship with hair, your relationship with the hair industry, your relationship with helping women just connect to their truth and connect to their own center is such a Venus Virgo thing, because part of Virgo's ancestral energy, if you will, a lot of times we can see like past life thing with Virgo energy, especially if there's like a south node in Virgo in a chart, where it was like everything was premeditated on, you cannot make a mistake, because if you make a mistake, you have failed greatly. And then that failure is the opposite of perfectionism. And so perfectionism is like, you need to be perfect. And if you aren't, then you failed. And so, coming into our vulnerability and coming into our relationship with the anti-perfectionism is part of the Virgo thing, part of the Venus Virgo thing. But I think Virgo's big thing also is connection to nature, connection to healing, connection to being the healer. And so when I see your Venus and Virgo in the first house, which is our embodiment, it's how people see us, it's how we show up. For you to be doing weddings, it's like weddings is Venus, and then for you to be working as a healer, kind of like almost as a side, like sort of is the Venus and Virgo, the magic of it all. It's so beautiful. And I'm so curious. I could like talk till the end of time, because being a curly haired woman, I didn't wear my hair curly for like 15, 20 years of my life, because my whole life I just wanted to be sweet, because like the world that we live in North America is so calculated on us looking like fitting in, right? And I was born in Europe. And so when I went back from my honeymoon to Italy, I was actually born in France, but when I went to Italy, I remember one of the things that I noticed the most was how women I just felt a sense of connection. I was like, they're just rocking their curly hair. They're on their bikes. They're doing that. They don't care. Why in North America are we so persuaded by all of this? Like, so to come into 39 years, going into looking at the next decade of 40 around the corner and thinking like, how can I really own my curly hair and like, and have this paramount hairstyle that really sees me own exactly what is natural to me. And I think
Mm-hmm.
I'm so proud of myself for that, because as you can imagine, and as you probably know, because you work in the hair industry a little bit, and have seen it all, the feedback on the hair is laden with people's baggage around their relationships with their hair and their relationships with their confidence, and it's short, it's all the things, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's like not something I don't think I ever could have done like before this time in my life. And I think it is part of it is sort of like the you know, it's all the pieces coming together in the last let's say 2 years and 9 months of being pregnant and all the things.
Mm-hmm.
This is who I am, and I'm ready to be that person and just not apologize for it anymore, you know? Whether that's physically apologizing for it or verbally apologizing for it, or even just energetically trying to assimilate myself. So I'm super like just fascinated with everything that you're saying. And I think that, you know, my takeaway from what you just said is two things. One, if you're going through a stressful event, hire Allison to help you with move through it. And the other thing is, how can we move into our breath? So if you were to offer a beginner some tips on just connecting with their breath, who maybe didn't live in the same city as you and couldn't take a class with you, what is there anything that we can do to help us connect to our breath and feel like a little more grounded in a moment of uncertainty?
Yes, there is. There's a lot you can do. So the one thing that I always say is close your eyes. Well, wherever you're sitting, you close your eyes and you connect first to what is touching something, like your sits bones on your chair or on the ground, your hands resting on your lap or wherever they land. And with every inhale, allow yourself to fill the belly, fill your chest. And then as you exhale, soften your shoulders, soften your jaw. And our breath is always moving. So if you are just aware of your body and the sensations, whether it's the way your clothes feel on your body or the hair on your face, or maybe it's the sound around you, the air around you, as long as you can connect to those sensations and just become really attuned and aware, you are connected to your breath, because that is you. You are connecting to the deepest part of you and becoming more aligned in yourself. And then as you do that, you can deepen your inhales through your nose, soften and slow your exhales out of your nose or mouth. And then just finding that really nice calm pace. And if you find sometimes it's hard to stay in that moment, always just come to your belly. Just notice the belly rises as you inhale and softens as you exhale. And honestly, that simple act of awareness is the key and the first step of just kind of coming into yourself, coming into your breath, and connecting to that really deep space. And when you are finding it harder to really stay in that, breath cycle, you can always breathe in for 4 counts. So take an inhale, breathe in for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. One more inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. And just simply counting your breath, your inhale and exhales, that is also a very nice and easy way to regulate your nervous system.
Yeah, it's so interesting to do that. You know what the prompt that I find gets you connected to it right away is when you close your eyes, because you lose that sense. So
Mm-hmm.
you're able to connect to what's really going on in your body.
Exactly.
It's really amazing. And I have to say, like, just doing it live with a person versus like, I don't actually have any of I don't have an Apple Watch or anything like that, but I don't have the prompt on my phone either. And I know some people who are really caught up, I would say, because I could say that I used to be like that, but I made the choice to not be like that. Who are still really caught up. They have the prompts on their phones and their Apple Watches, but they're not really doing it. It's kind of this laughing thing, like, did you really do it? That being said, having done it with you just now, I don't feel like the prompt is as beneficial. I think you would be able to make the most of that prompt if you were working with like an Allison in your life who trained you, to understand the power of your breath. Breath is kind of like an afterthought to when we close our eyes.
Right. Exactly. Sorry, there's a buzz ring. Sorry about that.
Sorry about it. I'm like very familiar with all the noises. We have like a cargo train that passes all the time. It's insane here. So I totally get it. Don't worry. But
yeah, it's true. Yeah. You're right.
It's the closing of the eyes is so powerful. It's like, it's a really great tip. And I think as simple as it sounds, like just connecting to your breath and doing it as a ritual, even just starting small wherever you are. And it's something that you can just take 5. Like
That's all you need.
Right? You can just walk away from a situation. And it's amazing how your breath does get you into sort of like that meditative state of feeling super connected, right?
It really does.
Yeah, we should be taking that time at least twice a day, morning and night, I think, to in maybe starting out in spaces where we feel calm so that we can build up that confidence as we move through our day, and then being able to retreat from situations to connect with our breath. Or when we get amazing at it, just be able to do it in the exact moment,
Exactly. And it's also just like anything else, it's a practice, right? Like no one comes into this like perfectly knowing how to do it and when they need to do it. It's the choice to be like, I need space right now, or I need to take a moment, because even if you feel like you can't do it, it's just being like, I can do this. I need a moment. What I used to do is, if I was at work and I couldn't, fathom moving away from a client or behind the chair or whatever, if you're at the office or if you're at home now on your computer and you're like doing all this stuff, just go to the bathroom. Like, go to your bathroom, close the door, put your hands under water for a minute, feel the water on your hands, and then just let them come down and just take a few breaths in your bathroom. Sit on your toilet, I don't care what you do, on the ground, whatever it is, and just breathe for a bit. And just to move the energy, just to like not be in stagnant energy, so that you can kind of like, okay, I can come out again and I've taken care of myself for 2 minutes, and I'm going to come back out. It may not be fully gone, but at least I'm trying. And just that is all you need. Like, it's not this whole miraculous thing of we need everything to be all together. It's just being like, okay, things are really hard right now. I'm really stressed right now, or there's a lot happening, but I just need a moment and it'll be okay. I can do this. And
I love this prompt because the moms among us listening can resonate so much, as the bathroom becomes this like space where you're like, take 5. I'm going to go hide there.
Yes.
And sometimes it's like a panicked toddler who's like still trying to get in. And then I'm just like, come sit with me, Quinn. We'll do it together. But right? Yeah. So, but the bathroom is like, you develop it's the only place in your house that has doors that no one comes in, and the adults among you respectfully agree that is the sanctuary. So for mothers, it's kind of a safe haven. It's a funny thing that happens. And
true.
Right? And I think those of us who aren't mothers yet or aren't mothers at all can relate to that space just being, it's true, it's a retreat. I had a roommate in Toronto, actually, when I lived in Toronto. I worked at Health Canada, and I had a roommate there, and we were young. We were like, how old was I? 25, 26? She loved the bathroom. Fanny, she loved the bathroom. She was like, the bathroom is my favorite place. She worked on the trading floor at one of the biggest banks there. And she was like,
oh boy.
Yeah, and she would come home and she'd be like, the bathroom. I don't want to be bothered.
Yes, exactly.
It's amazing. I think
if you're gonna escape to the bathroom, get yourself a really nice essential oil and then just smell it. Like, wash your hands, smell the oil. If that's your way of breathing, connecting to your breath, fine. If sometimes all of us are different, so we all like different things that kind of ignite something in us, and it could be any of our senses. It could be touch, smell, like just like closing your eyes, all that, anything. And whatever that is and whatever resonates with you, you just do it and don't even tell anybody. Just say, okay, well, I like the smell of licorice, so I'm gonna just bring licorice in there. Or I love peppermint, so peppermint makes me feel, awakens me, that enlivens me. So I just smell that and I feel like already better.
I'm with you. I love peppermint and I love the beautiful diffuser in the washroom. It's just like
Yes,
a whole sensory experience. Scent and memory
yes,
are so powerful. I think for everyone is what I've heard.
yes,
But for me, it just can take me back to a moment, good or bad, or even just like a small moment in time, like a longer memory or a small moment in time. So so many beautiful prompts today of just how to create our own oasis within 5 minutes in our homes, you know?
mm-hmm.
And it starts with the routine of feeling stressed at your work, at your desk, or whatever. But it totally trickles down and is hugely applicable to all the situations of even just walking away from a stressful exchange on the phone with someone, you know, and going into a family situation. It's the holidays coming up, you know, right? And the holidays really have a whole thing this year, because last year we had our hands tied with the whole situation. So this year everybody's like, really, it's the perfect storm for all the
Yes,
excitement and all the things.
yes.
So many beautiful prompts. Honestly, I'm so grateful. I would love you to leave us with just a couple of words on what we were saying earlier around you preparing to move into motherhood. And Alice and I were sharing, you know, just the approach around how we can just speak a little bit to your view as you prepare to move into motherhood, how you envision yourself coming into this role, and the bond and your vision and feeling around motherhood, around this child's life, because it was so beautiful what you were saying.
Yeah, I think for me and my journey as becoming a mother, so in my meditations I try to speak to my baby spirit, and I try to connect to them every day and just to let them know that, you know, I'm here on this journey with them, and I may have been here for 37 years beyond them, but it doesn't mean that I know more than them. And I've only experienced what I've experienced. I don't know what they're going to experience. And my lens is going to be different than their lens. So I just, I always tell them, I'm like, I'm here and I'm not perfect. And I want to learn together with you. We're in this together. I know that you're going to look up to me in so many ways, but I'm also going to look up to you and look to you for answers, because you may know something and you may bring something here that I will never know and your dad will never know. So we don't own you. We are bringing you into this. I carried you here, but I don't own you. So please just, you know, show me who you are. I'll do my best to support you as a human, as a soul, and make sure that your experience on earth is, you know, sacred and safe and supported, because you have a mission and I'm here to help you with that.
I absolutely love that so much. Like you just spoke it so well, because it's everything that I feel and think about so much in my relationship with Quinn. It's just, you know, I was saying to Allison, like growing up, my family was always like, why do I have to do this? You know, because I was just always had this rebellious independence streak. And it was like, because I said so. And I'm like, I just like think about that. And I'm like, that's such an annoying thing that people told us. It made us feel, and now I'm in the stage where everyone's like, terrible twos with Quinn, eh? Terrible twos. And I'm like, that is a really shitty way to like make me feel not great and make him feel like terrible, like he just is part of this like vicious cycle or something. And I'm like, no. You know, I could also say like astrological, oh yeah, it's Mars return, like Mars return every 2 years, you know, like he's going through it. But I really, really love this lens. I'm totally supportive of your point of view on parenting, and you know, I wish that everyone had that lens, particularly the part about we don't own our children. Because there's fears every day around, it's my child. I took care of them. I provided for them. I did this for them. I was, you know, I am the wiser, older, stronger, like more know-it-all person. And I see in the world the vulnerability around parenting from that point of view, as it's not necessarily commonplace in the Western world. And so it's so beautiful to be able to be on this parenting journey with you, and really just choose to continue to be vulnerable and embrace that vulnerability with our children and show them that they matter just as much as we matter in this journey. And you said it best. It's, you know, I say it all the time. I'm like, Quinn has his path, and I'm just here to facilitate it and encourage it and learn from it and watch him fail and give him so much independence and freedom. And it's okay. And I think when we operate our own lives from that space, that's when we're able to give that freedom to someone else, right? And just enjoy the journey and not try to control it. So I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited.
Actually, can I say one more thing? I just said something is just coming. I also think, you know, it's important for, you know, mothers and just children to know that, you know, when they say children are in their terrible twos and this and that, or, you know, when you're 16 and you're going through puberty, or sorry, 13,
yeah,
go through, like, we're supposed to go through these phases. So to call them terrible twos is like, okay, well, why don't we just say that they're growing right now and that they're expanding into a different person? Like, and maybe it's frustrating, because it is frustrating. Like, it is, we all get frustrated with certain things. Why can't they?
Yeah.
And why do they have to be perfect for us so that we can cope? Because it's all about, they're just reflecting what you do, and you know, may we just be open and be like, okay, let's be patient with them, because if we're patient with them, we need to do that to us. We need to be patient with ourselves.
Absolutely. You're so right. There's so many amazing takeaways. I speak so much these days, you know, parenthood or not, motherhood or not, is like, how can we go softer with ourselves? Because really the reflection of frustration is that we are so hard on ourselves, you know, and it's like, and what you just said, you know, and you'll cross this road too in a few months, is the sleep training thing. It's such a big thing for kids now. And I never sleep trained Quinn. And I'm still breastfeeding. I'm still trying to figure out, went through a rough patch where I was like, yeah, I know, I'm actually really comfortable with it, but I went through a rough He was sick for like 14 days and I was doing 24-hour shifts, and I was like, hey, the breastfeeding gotta go. I was like, this is crazy now. But now he's better, and I'm like, oh, but it's okay, just like once a day at night. I don't know. Anyways, so, but it is okay, because you know, I grew. That experience of him being sick for 2 weeks just changed me, because I was alone with him. My husband started working these crazy overnights during that time, and I was like really pushed to my limits. But again, it's like, it's not about, it's my growth through my discomfort to facilitate what he needs in that moment. And, you know, my birth chart and, you know, our self-awareness journey and our growth journey and our spiritual expansion has helped me so much step into this confidence and this strength. In these moments, it's not always easy, and sometimes it's frustrating and I want to give up. And I totally told Nick, like, I'm leaving you and Quinn, like, bye, I'm done, in the moment of chaos. So it's definitely not, it's far from not panic stricken. But that being said, you know, there's this capacity to hold our own through everything you and I believe in and what we practice and yearn to continue practicing and continue learning, that allows us to hold space for not only our discomfort, but someone else's discomfort. And it's that is the key, because it's learning about your discomfort in a situation so that you can parent in the way that you're going to parent. And then you can also hold your own in the face of adversity, where we live in the Western world and so many people are not parenting around that. And the sleep progression that happens around 4 months for the first time. And then the sleep training thing, you know, it's like, why didn't you sleep train? Why didn't you sleep train? And I have this conversation over and over. And granted, I have the flexibility to work for myself, you know, and build my own business and the ups and downs that come with that as well. So maybe that gives me a little more, you know, flexibility, I guess, or just space to have this point of view. But it's not my job to make myself comfortable when you are so young as a child, you know, trying to figure out so much of your stuff. It's, how can I help you? So yes, Quinn just turned 2, like I said. So this terrible twos thing is the newest kind of paradigm that people are trying to put him in. And I'm like, that is not helpful. It's, frankly, it sounds very condescending to me. And I just want you to feel like you're growing and you're uncomfortable and it looks really uncertain most of the time. And that's totally okay for me, because that's just the way life is, you know, really. The more we can move through that together, hopefully the more love you're going to feel in your life. And that, I think, love is like, it's love for ourselves, as you speak to so much on your Instagram. And it's also love for these humans so that they can learn from our example and what we have supported them with as well, to love themselves so much and be able to go through life just feeling, I think, grounded. And you know, in the fourth house in astrology, which is ruled by the moon, and your moon finds itself in the eighth house, so you have a close relationship to it. You also have a lot of planets in your fourth house, which I would love to talk to you about, but we'll do that another time.
Okay, love that.
But the fourth house is our root chakra, and it's that grounded feeling, you know, and it's unstable. And when there's planets of instability in it, we don't feel that connection with our root chakra and our worth. And our worth is at some level, if not the greatest level, is our love and our like what's the word, like unconditional support that can come just from ourselves. So I think when we struggle with the fourth house, when we struggle with our root chakra, it's our calling in life, it's our purpose and our mission in life to figure out what that looks like by our own standards, versus waiting for someone else to show that. But then the role as you become a mother, then, you know, we're able to support maybe the wisest souls among them who are coming to this life now and have passed many tests, and we can learn from each other in this iteration now.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So
yeah.
It feels sometimes, as cheesy it sounds, it kind of feels like it's like all the challenges and tribulations have been kind of preparing for this moment. Feeling like you're just in exactly where you're supposed to be, but in the most powerful version of yourself, and really opening up to more and more and more of that. So
totally,
like, such a beautiful conversation around just becoming a mother and motherhood. And, you know, I feel so close to your journey.
Thank you. I feel like this was very helpful for me, just to like know that, you know, like there's a lot of mothers out there that how we do have the similar, you know, we are aligned in a way. This is a supportive space, so it does help. So thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Allison. And, you know, you're so authentic as a person. And I think that will also be such a blessing and so helpful to your journey, as you and your partner move into family life and just birthing your child and all of that, because authenticity really is the cornerstone of so much of what we do in our life, and so much of where we find ourselves feeling just comfortable. There's a lot of inauthenticity, which is a whole other conversation. I'm sure that we can do. You know, it's actions speak louder than words. And I mean, your body language and just who you are as a person and your aura and everything are just really, really, really authentic and loving. And I'm just so excited to have connected with you here and be able to watch you become a mother and meet your one to come, because they come earthside. We'll talk more, because I can do a birth chart for a little one if that's something that interests.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah.
So we'll chat more about that. But before I let you go, I see you're drinking water, so I would imagine that is your drink of choice for the start of your day. As an expecting mother, that is a very amazing drink to start your day off with, and super. I think I'm trying to drink more water in my day. I am. Do you have a drink, a coffee drink that you drink before pregnancy?
So my caffeine of choice is I love either like a organic Earl Grey or a pu'er tea. I don't know if you've heard pu'er.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so I usually have one of those, and I usually make it into a latte. So I'll steam like oat milk, and I make a whole thing, so it's beautiful and foamy and nice. Like it's like a London fog, you could say, but just I add like my collagen or coconut oil or maple syrup and cinnamon, and then I just make it into this yummy, delicious thing in the morning sometimes.
Wow, that sounds a little bit like, am I mistaken, or is it kind of similar to the recipe for bulletproof coffee, but in the version
kind of, yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It feels like it's like really loaded with like calories and fat and just the right amount of like plant-based sort of thing. So
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
these coffee chats are going to convert me yet, let me tell you. I don't know. I'm like, so far, I'm just like, I think 3 for 3, just drinking coffee on my own, and everyone's doing their version of green tea or something grounding. So I think I need to consider alternatives soon. But there's a season for everything in life, and motherhood definitely is exhausting. So we're considering all the options, I would say,
Yeah.
in the journey of just continuously being open.
Well, I'm sure you're doing great, coffee or without coffee, so don't worry.
It's also in my blood. I'm like, it's the European, you know? It's the,
Yes, yes.
like,
It's like it's also like a nice it's a nice ritual. Like you to smell everything. It just awakens everything and it just feels good. So do it.
it is, right? And it's pre-pandemic. It's really the symbolism behind these coffee chats is, you know, meeting at a cafe and just starting our day off together and feeling really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So um,
Thank you.
thank you so much, Allison. Where can we find you right now?
So you can find me on my Instagram. So on my yoga one, it's called Breathe and Move. And then my hair one is just Allison_Cam. And you can message me if you ever want to have a chat or if you need any help with anything. And I'm here.
And she's so loving and so welcoming the second that you sent her a DM. It's an amazing exchange. Honestly, I'm so grateful for your
Thank
energy,
you.
presence, and you and your little one, and just so much love to you both. I'm
Thank
wishing
you so much.
I'm really wishing you the most beautiful like finale to 2021 as you prepare to deliver and move into 2022 with just this really amazing start to it. And I'm grateful for your time and your energy and your space this morning. Thank you so much. And these beautiful plants. Such a welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and making this so effortless and easy. And I'm not good with things like this, so you've made me feel so comfortable, and I really appreciate that. And I hope everyone enjoyed. And yeah.
Yes, everyone go check out Allison. I'm sure you're going to be taking a little bit of a mat leave, but you do Zoom yoga classes, right?
Yes, yes, I do. I do.
Perfect. Fantastic. So go check her out if you want to try the yoga class with her and experience her breath work firsthand. And I will see you guys in Discord and on Instagram as well. And please let me know how this conversation landed for you. I'm sending you guys so many good vibes for a beautiful day. Thank you for joining us. It means so much to me that you tuned in. Please do let us know your feedback, as it is so important in terms of continuing to show up for you guys in all the ways that you desire in these conversations. I want you guys to feel seen, and I want you guys to just walk away feeling hearts full, inspired, and ready to just take on whatever shows up for you, and all of the most, reaching for the most tools in your tool belt. So love you guys, and I'll talk to you very soon. Bye, babe.
Thank you. Bye.